Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Aussie Football Passport, your one-stop pod for updates on your favourite Aussie men and women footballers who are playing their club careers abroad. I'm your host, Alex, and each week I will take you through the men and women getting minutes, influencing their club season with their performances, so you know who will be in the running for the Matildas and Socceroos squad selections as the internationals come up. Each episode will have segments such as the news headlines, weekly wrap, and players of the week. This week, we've got plenty to get through, so here are the headlines. There's a leg injury to the brick wall, Mackenzie Arnold. Her coach at the Portland Thorns was asked whether it would be a long-term injury, to which the reply was, "No, I don't think so." So fingers crossed we see Micah Arnold back on the pitch very soon, because that would be a very big loss to the Matildas. Speaking of Matildas keepers, Tegan Micah confirmed after Liverpool's final match of the WSL season that she would be leaving. When interviewed after the game, she stated that she wanted to go to a club that valued her. Very surprising. She was also asked where she would go, and she said that she would like to stay abroad. So she more or less ruled out a return home. So it will be very interesting to see where Tegan lands. Hopefully she can find a club soon and get her club career sorted. Over to the men, and Nectar Triantis picked up the Young Player of the Year award for Hibs. Great recognition for his breakout season with the club, where he has been converted from a centre-back to a central midfield role and broken into the Socceroos squad. So well done, Nectar. As we're going to record, Nicholas Milanovic's move to Aberdeen from Western Sydney Wanderers in the A-League looks to be finalised. The reported figure is a fee of 800,000 Australian dollars. So that's massive news for the Wanderers and for Aberdeen as well. They're picking up a wonderful winger there and a very good fee for him as well. A breakout season for Milanovic for Western Sydney, and hopefully a little bit of a sweetener considering that they were knocked out of the A-League men's for the season. Now, let's go over to some coaching news. And L'Equipe in France is reporting that Joe Montemurro will depart from Lyon Féminin at the end of this season. So, again, another worst-kept secret. It looks like all roads lead for him to the vacant Matildas job. Whether he gets in time for the June international window, I very much doubt it. But whether he will be in contact with, of course, Tom Samani, the interim coach, will be interesting to see. And it will be a very interesting squad in June. So that looks like an almost done deal there. We'll await for further news on that one. Now over to the men's again. Aussie Ange Postecoglou, well, he's done a fantastic job guiding Tottenham to the Europa League final against Manchester United. So a poor season in the EPL for Tottenham, of course, as we well know, and it's been well reported and documented. But a cup final, nothing to be sneezed at, especially when you consider Tottenham's trophy record of late. That game will be played on the morning of Thursday, the 22nd of May, Australian time. So if you're interested in that one, mark it in your diary and your calendar and take a look at Aussie Ange's Tottenham. All right, so that's the news headlines for this week. Let's move on to the weekly wrap shortly. Okay, the weekly wrap for the ladies side of things. Alana Kennedy, well, she played the full game in Angel City's 2-0 win over the Utah Royals. She also laid on an assist for Christine Press in the NWSL game there. All right, now going across the Atlantic over to Sweden, and it was great to see Amy Sayer continue her return from that devastating ACL injury. She managed 66 minutes for Kristianstad in their 3-2 win over Vittsjö in Sweden. Of course, She was joined by Remy Simonson on the pitch for 18 minutes. Remy got in that one. So great to see there. Staying in Sweden, well, Jada Whyman, she kept a clean sheet in Ajax 1-0 win over Hammarby. So great stuff there from Jada, and she looks to be well positioned for this upcoming Matildas squad by the looks of things. Moving over to Polly Doran, who played 45 minutes for Linköping in their 2-1 loss to Djurgården there. So that was the wrap from Scandinavia. Now heading down to the WSL in England. There were no goals to report as the season wrapped up, but there were plenty of minutes. Our Aussie lasses at Arsenal, Steph Catley and Caitlin Ford, they both played the full game as Arsenal played out a 4-3 thriller against Man United, getting the win in that one. Great to see. They now have 2 weeks to prepare, of course, for their Champions League final against Barcelona on the 25th of May, local time in Australia, of course. So again, make sure you mark that one in the calendar. That should be an absolutely cracking game as we cheer on our Aussie girls for Arsenal there. In the what I'm calling the Clare Derby, Claire Wheeler played 87 minutes for Everton in their 1-1 draw with Tottenham. For Tottenham, Claire Hunt, well, she played the full game and picked up a yellow card as she tried desperately to keep Everton out. Charlie Grant, she came off the bench for 29 minutes for Tottenham in that one also. Moving over to West Ham, and Katrina Gorry played 89 minutes in what should have been another Matildas derby. However, Courtney Nevin didn't get off the bench for Leicester City in that game. Now to Germany, where Jamila Rankin got 90 minutes for Hoffenheim as they beat Karl Zeiss Jena 4-0. On the opposing side, Anna Margraf came off the bench, but she couldn't help her side despite playing 33 minutes against Jamila and Hoffenheim in that one. Now to France, of course, we mentioned Lyon earlier in the news headlines. Well, their Matilda, Ellie Carpenter, she played a full game for Lyon as they won 4-1 in that game. And of course, as we know, she is deadly on crosses. She did whip in 5 crosses in that one, but was unable to get an assist or goal, unfortunately. All right, now let's move over to the men and let's start in Scotland. Well, Martin Boyle continued his red-hot goal-scoring form for Hibs. Unfortunately, however, he couldn't get Hibs across the line. They did lose 3-1 to the machine that is Celtic. It has now taken his tally to 13 goals in the league and 18 in total for Hibs this season. He is certainly hitting his stride at the right time for Socceroos selection in June. Of course, we have 2 other Aussies at Hibs. Lewis Miller didn't make it off the bench, unfortunately, but Nectar Triantis continued his wonderful season for Hibs, playing the full game in midfield. All right, over to the other side of Edinburgh, and we have a couple of Aussies at Hearts, of course. Cameron Devlin, he got back into the starting side and played a full game in their 3-0 win over Motherwell, who was missing Johnny Contrumbris because of a red card from last week. Callum Neuenhoff came off the bench and played 10 minutes in midfield for Hearts as well in that one. Now, Ryan Strain, he faced his former side, St Mirren, and unfortunately, Dundee United, his current side, it went down 2-0. He did get the full game in that one down that right-hand side, but unfortunate news for Ryan Strain. Now, Josh Nisbet, well, he got a full game for Ross County in their 2-1 loss to St Johnstone. So he is continuing a strong season in the Scottish Premier League there. Speaking of Premier Leagues, let's head down to England, where Cameron Burgess played the full game for Ipswich in their 1-0 loss to Everton. That will leave him with 3 more opportunities to play in the Premier League before the season ends and his club side Ipswich get relegated. Hopefully those 3 performances put him in the shop window for a move to another Premier League side or abroad. All right, let's head to the European continent where we start with Paul Itzo making 8 saves for Randers as they went on to win 3-1 against AGF in Denmark. What a performance for Paul Itzo, who is really going to push Matty Ryan for that number 1 keeping spot in this June window, you would imagine. To Switzerland, and Nestri Irankunda played 60 minutes for Grasshoppers. Unfortunately, they went down 3-0 to FC Zurich in that one. Now to the Spanish second division, and we've got a couple of Aussies plying their trade there. Our Mabil played the full game for Castellon in their 3-2 loss to CD Mirandes. So unfortunate for Our, but he looks to have rediscovered his form in Spain. Now, Denis Jeanroux played 45 minutes for Deportivo La Coruña in their 2-1 loss to Sporting Gijón, also in the Spanish second division. Now, speaking of second divisions, let's go to the Netherlands, where former Western Sydney youth player Marcus Younes scored for Jong PSV in their 3-1 win over Jong Utrecht. So great to see Marcus getting involved there for a wonderful youth club side in the second division there. Over at Edu Den Haag, apologies for the pronunciation, Cameron Pepignon, he played a full game in a 7-2 thrashing of Vivi Venlo there. So good to see Cameron making strides in the Netherlands as well. Now to Austria, and Jacob Italiano played the full game for Graza AK in their 2-2 draw with Essia Altak. Meanwhile, Jed Drew, who of course moved in January from MacArthur to Hartberg, he got 28 minutes off the bench in the 0-0 draw with LASK in Austria. Now over to Italy, and in the Serie B action, Adon Hrustic played 45 minutes for Salernitana in their 1-0 loss to Sampdoria. Sticking with Serie B, and Jace Novello played 34 minutes for Cosenza in their 1-0 loss to Cesena. And of course, also good to see, just a quick shout out to, of course, Alessandro Circati, who made the bench for the 5th time after that ACL return from the ACL injury, I should say, for Parma in the top flight of Italy. Now over to Germany, and Connor Metcalf made his return from suspension for St. Pauli in a 2-2 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt. He only managed 7 minutes, so might be in the naughty book still with the gaffer there, I'd imagine. Now to France, and Matty Ryan, he played a full game between the sticks for Lens against Toulouse. The game ended in a 1-1 draw, but Matty Ryan did his best to help his side, making 5 saves there. So it should be a great contest between Itzo and Matt Ryan for the gloves for the Socceroos in that June international window. Now let's hop on a plane and head across to the Atlantic, where Aidan O'Neill made his debut for New York City FC, playing 61 minutes in their loss to Montreal CF 1-0. That one ended. Patrick Yazbek, he played 81 minutes for Nashville in their 2-1 win over Charlotte. So that is great to see from Patrick. Kai Rolls, he was on the other side. Unfortunately, he lost 2-0 to Toronto FC, of course, playing for DC United there. Ariaf Piol, he got 7 minutes off the bench for Real Salt Lake in their 1-1 draw with FC Dallas. Unfortunately, was not able to make an impact in that very short amount of time he was on the pitch. Now, rounding out the Aussies in action, let's head to Japan, where Mitchell Duke, he had a bit of a rough one. He had the unfortunate honour of being substituted on the pitch and then off again, playing 31 minutes in Makeda Zelvia's 2-2 draw against Shimizu S-Pulse. Jason Guerrier, he had a full game for Albrecht Niigata in their 1-1 draw with the Urawa Red Diamonds. And Thomas Deng, he played 79 minutes in Yokohama F. Marinos' 1-0 loss to Chedozor Osaka. All right, so that is the weekly wrap of players and players getting minutes. Next, we will give our players of the week. Stick around for that one. So, players of the week. Let's start with our women's player of the week, I should say. And this was a tough one. There was only really two candidates. Let's be honest with this one. It was Alana Kennedy, and well, I mean, her transformation into a midfield maestro continued on the weekend with that wonderful assist that we covered earlier. But it was difficult to go past the one and only Jada Whyman in goal there, keeping a clean sheet and helping her club side Ajax to a win in Sweden. It looks like she's timing her performances quite well, as of course we just heard about Mackenzie Arnold's injury earlier in the pod. And of course, Tegan Micah's lack of minutes for Liverpool playing against her. So I think this could be a great time for Whyman to step up and take that number one spot off the aforementioned Mackenzie Arnold and Tegan Micah there. All right, so Jada Whyman, well done. Now to our men's player of the week. Of course, this was another tough choice. Maddie Ryan and Paul Itzo, again, contributing well to both of their respective sides' performances, both making multiple saves and both helping their sides to a win. Slightly controversial, maybe, but I'm going to pick Martin Boyle for the men's player of the week, I should say. Of course, adding to his goal tally, although unfortunately Hibs did go down to Celtic in that one. But Martin Boyle is showing the kind of consistency in front of goal that the Socceroos desperately need going into a very crucial June international window as they face Saudi Arabia and Japan in the World Cup qualifiers. So long may it continue for Marty Boyle in that one. All right. So let's wrap it up in that case. And thank you for listening to the first ever episode of the Australian Football Passport. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you do stick around. So please like, subscribe, and comment on the pod. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. As for social media, we are on Facebook, X, and Instagram. All right. Thanks very much for listening, and I will catch you next week. Goodbye.